Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of the TINT podcast. And we want to thank everyone who watches the show. Welcome back. We're here. We're staying strong. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so. Tell everybody you know. We want all the subscribers, everybody you can. And, thanks again for everybody. We want to do another fun-filled episode here.
Yeah, when Grandma's not watching, grab her phone, subscribe. When your little nephew is playing video games, take that phone for a few minutes and be like, hey, you're subscribed to Tint now.
Before you take Grandma's phone and her credit card and start buying all the crazy stuff.
All the toilet paper in the world.
Whatever you're going to take from, whatever you're going to put on charge on Grandma's card, subscribe to our show first.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we ask.
It's simple.
Yeah. So, let's do another episode here. 17. Going strong. You ready for this?
Yeah, we're almost old enough to smoke.
One more year. We can go to war and smoke.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that weird? You can't drink, but you can murder another human being. You can murder another man, woman, or child, and it's cool, but...
Don't smoke.
Don't smoke. Well, now don't smoke. Don't smoke and don't drink. Back in the day, you could at least smoke. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't even smoke or drink.
Can't even take the edge off.
No.
After a long day's battle.
After a long day of murder.
What a fun way to start the episode.
Yeah, that's how we start off here.
By the way, I saw the movie The Gentleman. Have you seen that yet?
I have not seen that. I've seen some movies, but not seen that. I watched a movie called Beanpole from Russia, which was really good.
That sounds like some sort of pornographic film.
It was.
Mostly involving men.
Here and there.
Yeah. Sounds about right for you.
No, go ahead. Tell them about it.
The Gentleman's good, man. It's a good movie. It's Guy Ritchie doing what he does best. Cause
being married to Madonna.
No, that was actually the worst.
Oh, okay.
He started out with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Good movie.
That's a good movie. I really like the movie Snatch. That's not a pornographic film.
It's good porno.
Hell of a gangster movie. Then what do you do? Revolver? That's kind of a weird one. Have you seen that?
Maybe.
That's got Jason Statham. I gotta watch it again. It was kind of strange, but I think it might have been good.
He did those Sherlock Holmes. I don't know. What was up with that?
I don't know, but I didn't even.
That's weird.
I didn't even show up.
Yeah.
And then he did a bunch of Madonna stuff.
He did a bunch of Madonna stuff because there was no other way she would marry him.
Well, she had him in her trance.
Yeah.
Clearly. But then he did Rock and Rolla, which is a little too long, but I think that's great. If you haven't seen that, you've seen Rock and Rolla, right?
Yeah, but I don't think it's that good.
It's really, really good. And The Gentleman, when he makes his gangster films, they're really good.
It's a little over the top.
But they're entertaining. That's what else you want, you know what I mean? This one's got, McConaughey is, to me, a good actor. He's kind of a goof. He's kind of out there. But even...
Likes his Lincolns.
Not playing bongos.
I'm a Lincoln.
In my Lincoln. The dude from Sons of Anarchy, Charlie Hunnam, he actually was really good in the movie. And I never watched Sons. I know people are gasping at home watching this, and I never watched Sons of Anarchy.
You've never watched like an episode of it, or you just didn't watch the show in general?
I've seen like an episode here.
I've seen an episode.
But I never, sat down and watched it.
Yeah, I've never invested.
But I hear it's really, really good. Eventually I'll get there. But he's super good in the movie. And Colin Farrell, dude, what can you say about the guy? I hope he's a good guy in real life because he's got some good movies. In Bruges is
that's a tremendous film. And
he's great in it. So, yeah, The Gentleman. It's worth the watch, man. Oh, dude, and you know what else I just watched? Extraction.
I gotta tell you, I was surprised. The ending was cheesy and stupid as all hell, but the bulk of the movie, it was all action and it was all great.
Dude, I thought, there's movies I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. I don't even want to watch the trailer. Mm-hmm. I know I'm gonna watch the movie. why bother with the trailer? I figured at worst it would be okay. I'm sure it would be okay. But man, when it kicks off, dude, in that action scene in the beginning, and it's all like one shot. Obviously, they cut where they can, but the car chase and
it's really great.
Dude, that movie, it's more brutal than I thought it was going to be. There's like
a lot more brutal, a lot more visceral, a lot of blood.
A lot of bloody violence.
I would like to recommend that movie, Beanpole, by the way. Surprisingly good movie.
For mature viewers.
It is for mature viewers.
I've never even heard of that.
It's a really screwed up movie about this woman who has this. This is after Stalingrad, or after the Battle of Leningrad, either Battle of Leningrad or Battle of Stalingrad. They're in Leningrad, and this woman, she's like really tall, so they call her Beanpole, but it's also in Russian, it means awkward. And she has these fits where she'll just freeze up. And she's taking care of another woman's child, and this other woman shows up, and it's the dysfunctional relationship between these two women, and it's really just brutal. And although it's beautifully shot, the film is excellent, the acting is stupendous. The topic and the execution are pretty intense. If you want like an intense emotional ride, I would highly recommend this film. It's beautifully done. It's the color palette, the costuming, everything very authentic, very Russian, and yet still it's not a movie you'll forget very quickly. I highly recommend it.
All right. Well, might be worth checking out. Mark's recommendation. And you know who's back? Tim and Eric are back. That's right.
Back in town.
They got a new show called Beef House. Now, I know Tim and Eric's not for everybody. But
it's kind of like Full House, but with more beef.
And the girl from The Sopranos.
And the girl from The Sopranos.
Yeah. You know, Tim and Eric, they do, you could describe it as alternative comedy. And that's
you could.
One way to describe it. But there is the whole alternative comedy genre. And the thing about it is, I'm cool with it as long as it's funny.
Well, they're like the kings.
There's a lot of people that just aren't funny, and they just go for weird. It's like, you still got to be funny if you're going to throw comedy on there. You know what I'm saying? Some people are just weird to be weird. And then you got to think like, oh, I should think this is funny because, you know, it's that weird. No, it just doesn't work. But Tim and Eric, on the other hand, I don't know. They
I don't know who you're talking about. Who's the other people you're talking about?
There's a lot. There's Adult Swim, you know.
There's a lot of good Adult Swim shows.
There's good stuff, but then there's just stuff that's just like way over the top. But yeah, Beef House is back. Well, it's here for the first time. But Tim and Eric are back. Check it out. It's weird. And lastly, before we get into the show, there's a whole thing going on. We're not even going to talk about it. But if you're someone who catfishes people, this has to be like the glory days for you. You know what I'm saying?
Because you really can't get busted now.
You're like, oh man, I was this close to check. We could have met up. But now we can't because of the whole thing. And now we just, you know.
Because she's a supermodel and she's stuck at home right now. She'd be flying over here in one of her private jets, but, you know, because of the coronavirus.
No. Because of the thing we won't talk about.
Oh, yeah, the thing we won't talk about.
Yeah. Now we can't. You blew it. Now we can't meet. We just can't meet. So,
yeah.
By the way, if you're in a relationship with someone for 4 years and you've never met them, take a look in the mirror and make some better choices.
Yeah,
it might be being catfished.
Yeah.
Most likely you are.
4 years is a long time.
I've heard of like 4.5 years.
Like, you know, I mean, are they at least talking? Are they?
Yeah, but it's all, you know, direct messaging and fake pictures of some person, right?
Yeah.
Who works at Wendy's or some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, you actually, even if you talk to him on the phone.
At least that's halfway there, because you at least know it's not a man. Like, let's say you're a man looking for a woman. If you at least talk to them on the phone, you know at least one thing. It's not a man. But if you've never actually talked to them, if you've just, like, typed, you know, communication. Yeah, that's right there. Right there. That's 90%.
Maybe 3.5 years in. You should start to question things. But now you can't, because there's a whole thing going on that we're not going to talk about. So, all right, you want to start the show?
I guess.
Well, I've been saying for quite a while that I was going to watch the Star Wars movie.
Yeah, thanks for doing that finally.
So today we're going to review the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. Ooh.
I don't know why it's called that. It's really not the Rise.
I sort of see it.
I guess. I don't.
It's like an I guess.
Yeah. The whole 3 movies are like an I guess. You know? Like, I guess.
It just wasn't great. It wasn't even good.
It wasn't even good. When you have that amount of money, that amount of talent, the writers you could have tapped, the story you could have come up with, a story arc for all 3 of the films rather than doing them independently, patchwork, so they have no coherence, so they have no overall structure and no subtext. Sorry. Go ahead, man.
I actually think you make a good point. Like, with all the people that work at Disney and all the companies that they own, including Marvel.
Yeah.
You couldn't get together maybe a team of people to hash something out.
Halfway decent story.
That's all we're asking. We didn't even get a quarter of the way decent. You could probably take like an 8th grade class.
Yeah. And come up with much better
nerds. Just take a class of nerds, and they would knock it out of the park.
What about a grand slam?
Yeah. Instead, you got an angsty Kylo Ren.
Yeah, I guess.
And he wears his mask and cowl for like 20 minutes in the first movie, and then that's it. And then as I was watching the latest one, I was like, why doesn't he wear the damn? And then he puts it on again for 5 more minutes.
You know, the part I loved was in the second movie where he comes up and tells the girl, what's her name? Ren
and Stimpy.
She's like,
Ray and Stimpy.
He goes, your parents were nobody. They were junk miners. They were nobody. They're nothing. And then in the next movie, oh yeah, but your grandfather, he's Lord Sidious. So that's got to be something.
And what's with this shit of like they can be around each other and fight each other, but then they're not when they don't want to be?
All those powers increased. Like all those now they can heal with the Force. Now they can play like checkers across the universe with the Force. They can if they're
red light, green light.
If they really have to go take a urinary break, they just force it into somewhere.
The toilet.
Yeah, into the toilet. That's where it belongs.
It's like the powers are just all over the place.
Whatever you want.
The lightsabers they don't barely even do anything. They're not as powerful as they once were. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
they're like powered down. You used to be able to just and somebody's chopped in half.
But it was useless. There was no coherent story, and I rooted for none of those characters in the first, series of movies. You rooted for Luke, and even for what's his name, Solo. Even for Han Solo, even though you knew he shot first, he was a murderer. You still rooted for these guys. With this team, it's like,
it's because they tried too hard. See, in the original trilogy, it was all fresh. It was all new, right? So you got this kid from the farm. He wants to stop being a damn loser and go out there.
He wants to work at the Roadhouse. That's his goal. He wants
to bounce at the Roadhouse, and he can't do it because he's a farmer loser. And then here comes this whole adventure, and it's like it's all new, it's all fresh. So the challenge for the new movies is like, okay, let's take that and then build on it. But instead, they're just like, let's just redo it.
Redo it only bigger.
But somehow worse.
Now it's not a Death Star, it's a Death Planet. What?
And every ship has a Death Star planet killing cannon on it.
And now it's not the what were they called? Now it's the First Order. It's not the Republic or whatever.
Now it's the New World Order.
Yeah.
And then the big bad villain is the Palpatine again.
Because he couldn't think of anything.
In all 3 trilogies, it's Palpatine every time.
But it loses its, the 6th movie or whatever, the 3rd movie, however you want to look at it, where where Darth Vader throws Lord Sidious down that, and kills him. That's a moment. You know what I mean? That's like something powerful. And then just bring him back. So it totally negates everything that, Darth Vader did at that moment. His change of heart,
Well, and then it supposedly balanced the Force.
I guess.
So you're telling me Luke was didn't notice that dude was still alive? I mean, I know that's one power that they had. Couldn't they tell when
from a distance.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive, guys. But no, he either didn't say shit, which is really bogus, or he was just slacking.
Yeah, when they're leaving that Death Star, shouldn't Luke and his dad look at each other and they're like, oh, well, I guess his dad didn't make it, but they should I don't think he's dead.
Let's go track him down while he's weakened, and finish it. But no, and then he comes back and it's a whole thing. And that middle trilogy about the rise of Vader or whatever, that was terrible.
Whatever.
Those were the worst. You picked the worst actors to be Anakin.
Yeah, but the problem is, when you look at that movie, he's trying to pull off his best Luke Skywalker by being whiny and being this and doing that.
It just keeps repeating.
So it's, I don't understand why they did it that way.
And then you had Samuel L. Jackson, which is cool, he's a great actor in certain things, but Star Wars stuff? You just take me right out of it. And then the same thing with Laura Dern in the second one.
Yeah.
Of whatever, she's got the purple hair and she's walking around what is this crap? What is this crap?
It was bad. It was very bad. And I don't know. It's just, you look at what they did with The Mandalorian and how epic and amazing that show was. And you're like, why couldn't they just not make those 3 movies and just call, the movies, whatever it was, 7, 8, 9? Why don't we just call that The Mandalorian? That's what happens. The Mandalorian happens.
They could have made those movies just be an offshoot of something else.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been enjoyed maybe better. But you're taking up the mantle of Star Wars. You're the Star Wars now. And you blew it. But yeah, The Mandalorian, I mean, it's like when they do the side projects, there's not a lot of pressure. So they have the freedom to do what they want, and it's just better. I liked Rogue One a lot.
Yeah, Rogue One was good.
That was really good. Weirdly, I even liked the Han Solo movie, even though I really wanted to hate it, and maybe that's why it wasn't hateful. So I was like,
no, it was decent. It wasn't bad. It was decent, and
But this one is just it's just so forced. You don't care about any of them. You don't care about anything that happens to them. And I kind of wanted the Sith to just win, just end it forever. And now they're gonna do another trilogy, right?
I don't know what they're gonna do.
And who's gonna be the big bad villain again?
Who?
Palpatine.
Oh, well.
So spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I can't say that word for some reason.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
There you go. So yeah, thumbs down for me on Star Wars.
I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up, but that's just out of pity for the actors, because they did the best they could. What I don't understand is how I wish I could remember their names. The one who was the stormtrooper, Finn. So Finn was a stormtrooper. So all those stormtroopers were like his buddies, right? Mm-hmm. They were trained together, and then he left the stormtroopers. And then 20 minutes later, he's blasting stormtroopers left and right. How does he know those aren't his friends? How does he know those aren't the people he grew up with and they were hanging out together at the cantina last week? He doesn't care. He's just blowing them away. That's the thing. There was no emotional struggle. There was no internal struggle within him, whether he should be good, whether he should be bad, whether he should, it was just oh my God, it was just so bad.
Think he had that change of heart literally in like overnight. Not even like one battle.
Yeah.
You don't think they could have tried to reach out and just send out a message like to the stormtroopers, like, hey, you're like me. Maybe I won't have to kill you, and maybe what you're doing is messed up.
Yeah, right.
And then he's a general at the end?
I don't know. They're all generals at the end. Everyone's a general. General Leia, General Solo, General Electric, and General Mills.
General Motors.
That's another good general.
He's the one that got him the plans for the Death Star.
Can I tell you a story about a certain Robert Christian Hansen? You know who that is?
That's Jeff Hansen's weird brother.
No, and it's not the guy from To Catch a Predator either.
Oh. Who's Jeff Hansen?
I don't know.
Who's the Catch a Predator
guy? Chris Hansen.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff is... I don't know who Jeff is.
He's that creepy little brother. Go ahead, sorry.
I've heard of a Jim Henson. Not a Hansen, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this serial killer, apparently, who lived in Canada. He was originally from Iowa. He was called the Butcher Baker.
What years?
In the 70s and early 80s.
The golden age.
The golden age for serial killers.
You can really run rampant.
So what happens is, there's a girl in the back of his car that he's about to take out into the wilderness, because he has a plane. He has a cabin somewhere, in the bush of Alaska, and she kicks off her shoes to prove that she was in the car, jumps out of the car, and hauls ass to the road and flags down a guy, even though she's in handcuffs. The guy lets her in. The dude's like running after her, Hansen, but they leave. So the trucker is a little shaken, but he drops her off at like some restaurant as opposed to the police station because she was a prostitute. So she wanted like the police to come to her. She didn't want to, she was worried about the whole thing. So she actually leaves the restaurant. She goes to her motel where her boyfriend's at. And the police come to the motel. They finally take her story. They find the shoes in the car. And they don't believe her. They don't believe a word of what she said.
What did she say happened?
Well, she said that he took her. He held her prisoner. He raped her. He forced her to he basically did like S&M stuff, sadomasochism stuff with her. And then he was going to take her out into the bush. And the guy, he was like mild-mannered Baker. He's like, I think she was, she's just extorting me for money because she knows I have money. And so, I never do that kind of crazy stuff to her. And so I guess, they listened and bought it and didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. Then a few years later, a couple more women disappear. Mm-hmm. Finally, they bring in a profiler from the FBI, and the FBI profiler gets a list of people who could possibly be suspects, and one thing after another. Okay, he has a house in the bush. He's a hunter. He doesn't like women. He's from Iowa. I don't know, maybe. But, obviously this is our guy. And eventually they secure a warrant to search his property, right? Mm-hmm. And they find upstairs in his attic a secret room where he kept these women and where all his trophies were from the other women. And they find a map, in the bush where his cabin is with a whole bunch of X's marked. Mm. What had happened was he was taking these women out there, stripping them naked, and then sending them out into the bush, and he would go and he would hunt them. And when he killed someone, he would put an X on his map where she had died.
Jesus Christ.
He killed, I forgot what it was, but close to 20 women, something like that. Yeah. And he was just horrendous, evil person who nobody did anything about because they didn't believe these women, because they were prostitutes. At first he wasn't taking prostitutes, but later on he was taking prostitutes.
He got wise because nobody cares about prostitutes.
Yeah, apparently so. That was the case in Alaska.
Mm-hmm, that's the case a lot of the times. Let me ask you this. Did he have any history in the military that you know of, or you don't know?
He may have. I think he may have had some.
Dude. And I say that because I've never heard of this guy, and that's a crazy horrific story.
Yeah, I'm surprised. That's the first time I ever heard of it.
Yeah, because I've had like encyclopedia of serial killers, and I've been looking at serial killers for I don't know why.
For way too long.
Way too long. But it's just fascinating how someone could be that evil and do all this crazy shit. And yeah, I never heard of that guy. But what I've been noticing lately is everyone that I've looked up has some sort of military in their background. Jeffrey Dahmer was in the Army. Ted Bundy was in the Air Force. That's just off the top of my head. There's a bunch of them, though, dude. Edmund Kemper, that big giant.
Yeah.
I want to say Army or Marines. Not positive.
Well, I mean, a lot of people who go into the military, who come back, it's easier for them to kill other people because they've done it already.
I understand that, but these serial killers do it in ritual fashion, and it's usually involving some sort of sex.
Yes.
Sex crime, sex ritual, torture, whatever, what have you. And but yeah, that's a crazy story, and that also reminds me of the whole Jeffrey Dahmer thing when that boy got out and went running down the street, and the cops picked him up, and he was naked with a hole drilled in his head.
Yeah. Because
Jeffrey Dahmer was trying to make sex slaves. Look that up, people. He wanted live sex slaves. And he was so whacked out of his mind from drugs and just naked and messed up. And Jeffrey Dahmer came and was just like, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's just my little boy toy. And they're like, we don't want nothing to do with this. Here you go.
Nice.
That's basically what happened. And we all know the rest. So, yeah, that's a pretty crazy story, man.
Yeah, and there are people like that. There was this, it's called the Trail of Tears or something. I forgot what the exact name it is, but it is a road in Canada. A lot of times that passes near Native American and Indian reservations, and a lot of girls between the ages of like 14 and 20 have gone missing along that road. And they say that most likely that there were probably between 2 and 3 serial killers operating on that road
at all times,
based on the amount of women that have disappeared. And the police really didn't take it seriously because it was Native women, and because they were figuring, oh, well, they're just running away from home. They're in a home where, everybody's an alcoholic. They're just trying to get away, so it's no big deal. And a lot of times you find that, the authorities are the ones who missed it. You know what I mean? There was ample evidence. They could have done something. They could have stopped this, but because of either prejudices or just general incompetence, they didn't do what they were supposed to at the time, providing these killers with, freedom to kill as many people as they wanted to.
But at the same time, there was for many, many years. Started profiling. That was the FBI guy that Mindhunter is based off of. That was what, in the late 70s? Early 80s?
No, early 70s. Yeah, no, it wasn't.
It was the early 70s.
I'm telling you, it was early 70s.
Maybe that was when he was getting started, but that information didn't start coming out until he started compiling all killers and all that.
You're right. In the late 70s and 80s, they actually developed the technique. But what
I'm saying is they were also not prepared and couldn't understand these type of ritual murders. There was no serial killer to speak of. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
there was no pattern murderers. They only looked at murder a certain type of way. And yeah, there is the case of they only care about certain people. Sure, that's why prostitutes. That's number one. Target.
If you want to kill somebody, kill a prostitute or a homeless person, and you'll get away with it. You know
hypothetically.
What I mean? Well, you know what I mean. Obviously, hypothetically, but
it comes across as though you're encouraging.
No, I'm definitely not encouraging that. Do not do that. But the whole point is when it's not like a family member and it's not like a relative or it's not like a friend or someone you work with.
Crime of passion.
Yeah. Then it's very difficult to find who did it unless you have clear evidence.
Actually, unless you paint a picture of profiling somebody who has to have these type of factors in order to perform this murder. Otherwise, you'll never put it together.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy. I want to say Army. Do you know that? I know a guy. He's a friend of mine. He's older. He was John Wayne Gacy's paperboy.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, but he was too young. Thank Christ.
Thank God.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have because he worked as a clown. You know that?
Yeah, and he
it's a little much.
I wonder why people don't fear clowns. By the way, has a clown ever been funny? Has anyone ever watched a clown and been like, ha ha, yes?
I mean, I'm sure there's been like 4 or 5
in the history
of clowning. But
I'm sorry for all you guys that are clowns out there.
No, we love clowns. We just don't love the clowns that are serial killers. I'm going to say that.
Funny.
I'm going to say that.
I just don't think clowns are funny.
I think they're funny when they like hurt each other very badly.
As long as they don't serial kill, I guess, then they got my vote. There was this one killer, and now I can't remember his name. So, but since you brought this up, it made me.
I brought it up.
Yeah, I always remembered this guy, but damn it, I can't remember his name.
What did
I'll put it in the comment or something. But his whole thing was, he would kill depending on whether when he went to take a shower, whether the bar of soap, what side it was on.
Uh-oh.
Like if the bar of soap was like dry on the top,
mm-hmm.
then he wouldn't kill. But if it was flipped over and it was like wet, then he would kill.
Yeah, but he's the one who put it down that way to begin with.
That's the funny part.
That is funny.
And then he went, I want to say he went just in a neighborhood just rifling people and they tackled him.
Christ.
What the fuck is wrong with all that?
I don't understand, like, but whatever, people are cruel. They just love to, you always find that with these serial killers and these, mass murderers and stuff, they either have like a domineering mother or father who were abusive.
Most of the time, but not all the time.
Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
I'm sure Jeffrey Dahmer's parents were fine.
Lovely. Lovely people.
Lovely people. Do you know what he did for his first kill? You want to get real dark with it?
I don't know, but you're going to tell us.
I want to say he was about 18 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Picked up a hitchhiker. Was like, hey, you want to come back to my place? I got weed.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, okay, cool. So they're in his room, and the guy's like smoking weed. He might have made a pass at him, and I don't think the guy was into it. I'm not sure on that. But while the guy was taking a hit of weed, he had like dumbbells in his room. He cracked him over the head.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And that led to his first kill, right? He bludgeoned the guy over the head. And then, here's where it gets real fun for all the boys and girls. He chopped the guy's head off and kept it in crawl space in the house. And one Thanksgiving, years later, he came back, found the head, and
okay, enough. All right, let's go to a different topic because I think we've more than exhausted this
crazy
one.
Stuff, guys.
What were you going to talk about?
So there's this new series on Vice. Well, where say what you will about Vice, that channel used to be kind of right in the middle, and now it definitely swings one way over the other. And so there's not a lot of stuff on there that I care to watch. But there's a new series called The Dark Side of the Ring, and it's just getting into all these pro wrestling stories of crazy stuff that happened. It did the whole Chris Benoit thing where he murdered his freaking wife and kid and killed himself and put the Bible on the kid's chest and all this crazy stuff, dude.
Well, because it used to be. Can I just interject this one thing? Mm-hmm. It used to be that wrestling was local. So in the United States of America, there are probably 50 to 100, maybe not that many, but a lot of wrestling federations. Virtually every 3 states had their own wrestling.
And it was big in Canada too.
Federation in Canada, it was huge.
And Mexico.
And even Mexico. Mm-hmm. And they were all separate. So you had your local people and, they would wrestle each other and there was the stars and the villains and the whatnot. But
it seemed like there was a purity to it then.
Yeah, there was something.
An innocence, if you will.
I would go that far. It was
sure
it was innocent. It was
kind of crazy.
Yeah, but it was like a fun time, and it wasn't what it became, the spectacle and the monopoly that it eventually became when the World Wrestling Federation. Because I even remember there were like 3 wrestling federations, WCW,
NWA.
Yeah, and WWF. And, they like competed.
Gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
They were the best. They were the best. And so.
Wait, do you remember the one where the girl flipped the other girl and her arm popped out of its socket?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I was about 10 or 9, and that was fun for me to watch over and over and over while they replayed it. Go ahead.
But there was a point in time, let's say that you were working for this group. You could always go over to the other group, and maybe they were going to give you more money, maybe they were going to give you whatever. They didn't have health insurance, they didn't have anything, but they could make more money. But then what happened was a certain gentleman, a certain Vinny, took over the whole operation, made it a monopoly, and basically he became the king. He ruled over all of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned it from being something like a fringe, like spectacle sport, to being something like with the WrestleManias and the whatnot, to being a pay-per-view event.
To me, it seemed like he was motivated by greed. And so all those other stuff that was going on, I think, my opinion, was that it was more motivated for the love of the, I don't loosely say sport, right? Because we all know that the matches are predetermined.
But you still have to be an athlete.
But at the same time, those dudes are beating the hell out of each other. Okay, so you do have to be in top, shape. Well, I mean, there was some back in the day they weren't in the best of shape, but he kind of took it over and it was just all about the greed, making money.
Mm-hmm.
So the love of the game was really, he didn't really care too much. It was all about profit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there was no other place, but like I said, there was no other place for a wrestler to go. If you wanted to make it big, there was only one place to go, the World Wildlife Fund, I think it's called.
That's what it had to become because of the lawsuit. But yeah, like you said, he was just crushing everybody over and out, and that brings to mind the story of Dino Bravo, and there's a lot of people love wrestling, a lot of people don't care for it. Whatever it is, this is still an interesting story to me, and some people might know it. But there was this in Canada. A lot of the big time wrestlers came from Canada, not just Bret the Hitman. I think the Road Warriors, maybe. Either way, there's a lot of talent out there in Canada, and Dino Bravo was like a big time guy. He was like the main guy, and he had his own company, and he was like the Hulk Hogan of Canada. And basically, in his company, what he would do is he would have the matches, and they were predetermined, but he would always make himself the champion. Right? So the other wrestlers, after a while, kind of got a little tired of it. And he's like, no, it's good. They want me to be champ, right? And they're like, all right, they're still making money. Well, here comes Vince McMahon waving his paychecks around, and more wrestlers just started following the money. And then the next thing, and they were also offering Dino Bravo a spot, and he was like, no, because he didn't want to sell out. He wanted to keep his company and keep it pure. And all his wrestlers left, and so nobody really. His viewership dropped off. He wasn't making money, so then he had to go crawl into Vince McMahon and be like, okay, I'll come work for you now. And Vince is like, oh, cool, yeah, but you're gonna be a villain. Oh, and also your brown hair, you gotta bleach blonde, and we're gonna do that for you. It was like a humiliation thing, dude. And then in the thing, it was him and his wife that did it, and they didn't even know what they were doing. They like burned his scalp, but that was the thing he had to do. So. He never made it big in the WWF or E, and he always had to be the villain, and he never got his shot. And then after like 3 years, his contract came up, and Vince was like, "Nah, you're done," and that was that. And there was nowhere to go. It's like once you're out of the pros in baseball, you can go, to the minors, but that's nowhere near the same. You're done basically. Your income, it's over. So then he knew some people, and he started turning to a life of crime. And he was working for the mob in Canada, and they were running cigarettes which I didn't realize it was that
I'm running
crazy.
maple syrup.
Cigarettes and maple syrup, man. And they were serious about it. They meant business out there. And there was some talk of like maybe some job that went wrong, or he might have pissed somebody off because his ultimate demise, he was sitting in his house, no sign of forced entry, and the man was sitting on his couch. I want to say the remote was on his lap or something, and he had 11 bullets in his head and 4 in the torso, which seems like a little bit of overkill.
Yeah, somebody definitely.
Somebody needed to make a statement.
Yeah.
Because usually, what's it, 2 in the head? You can call it a day?
That's good.
I think you're good with 2 in the head. But yeah.
2 in the head. You're sure he's dead. That's like a mafia
slogan.
Give him 2 in the head, make sure he's dead.
That was racist. But, yeah, so that's kind of messed up, man. And,
well, can I say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
That the problem with wrestling is that it is one of the last sports that has no security once you're finished with the sport. And every other sport they have now where you get health care, you get certain benefits because you're a professional athlete. So your window of actually being useful to the sport is very small. Mm-hmm. So you can suffer for a long time after you retire. Let's say you retire at 40, 45.
Which is super early.
Yeah. From the time you retire, to the time you pass away, let's say you live a long life, you can have a lot of problems, back problems, leg problems, knee problems, mental problems, all the roids they make you do just so that, you get built. Just ask The Rock. No, don't ask The Rock. I don't know what he did. But
I think I could safely say that he may have partaken in a cycle or two.
Yeah. I mean, these guys became huge.
And here's the thing. Let's say they don't make you do roids, but they certainly don't really enforce you to not do roids.
No.
Right? So if the guy next to you is all roided up and jacked, well, he's going to get the matches.
Exactly.
So what do you got to do?
Kill him. Or do the steroids. Damn it. Yeah.
But, yeah, so...
I always get that one wrong.
There's a cycle of just destruction. And then if I had to guess, I'd say that maybe they don't have, like, the best money plan for after they're out.
No, because they're like MC Hammer partying it up.
Living the good life and tearing it up and maybe not seeing it in the future.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure a few guys had a plan, but many of them just get spit right out and left to their own,
And they have nothing. They have tons of issues with their body. They don't have money because they, spent it willy-nilly, or they weren't getting paid what they deserved. Because, like I said, once it became a single entity, the Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment or whatever they call themselves,
facility,
there was nowhere else for you to go. If you were a wrestler and you wanted to be successful, that was the only place you could go. So all like the small venues, the little venues, they were bringing in a couple $100. But if you wanted to make, tens of thousands of dollars, there was no place else. You needed Vince McMahon's approval. You know what I mean? You needed to kiss his ass. And you needed to, because anything, wherever there's a monopoly, the guy on the top is going to feel like he's the king. Just like, look at North Korea, that you realize he's been missing for like 3 weeks?
He's dead now.
It's weird.
His sister's in charge.
Yeah, no, it's weird.
And everybody's like, I hope she'll be cool. I'm like, you do know that she probably killed the boss.
Yeah, they probably, that's why she's in charge. So, yeah.
I wouldn't get my hopes up.
Yeah, she's going, oh, my brother died of the terrible coronavirus. It's so horrible for me. I am so very sad.
Definitely not cyanide.
And it was not cyanide. It was that thing.
That we're not going to talk
about. That we're not going to talk about.
Favorite wrestler, go.
I had 2 favorite wrestlers. I liked Jimmy the Snuka Superfly, or the Superfly Snuka, and I loved his super flying mode.
I just like to say that.
I just like the Superfly Snuka, and he would jump from like one side of the ring to the other because he would like bounce down on those ropes, and he'd like fly through the air and land, and mostly hurt himself. But that was like, oh man, that was like my move when I was like wrestling with, the kids in the neighborhood. And I also like the Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior. Who didn't?
Everybody loved him. He was the Ultimate Warrior.
I tell you, when I was a kid, I liked Hogan very briefly. And then everybody loved Hogan. And I was like, I'm over it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the Warrior showed up.
Well,
I was like, yeah, this dude.
I don't know.
Rock and roll, dude.
I don't know about you.
Look at this crazy motherfucker. Yeah. Getting nuts with the ropes. Loved it. And he painted his face, dude.
But did you go see the movie when it came out? No Holds Barred? Dude, I had to be like the first one there. Like me and two of my friends from like the neighborhood are like, oh man, this is going to be probably the greatest movie that was ever made. We had seen like Lionheart and Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme. So we're thinking like this is going to be like 10 times as good.
It's going to be better than Star Wars.
Yeah. It's
No Holds Barred.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the weird part? This is like the one main part that I remember. Is when
I remember none of it.
He was doing like... He had some weird scenario where he was in the room with a lady that was like the secretary for the thing, and then they were on the run because, people were trying to kill them in the wrestling world.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was.
So it's like a true story.
Yeah. And then he was like doing push-ups, or she heard like a noise and she looked and she thought it was his ass she was looking at.
Yeah.
And then it was his heels and he was doing push-ups.
No, I don't remember that, but that sounds like a tremendous scene.
That's the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life, dude.
All I remember...
Who thought of that? Who was like, I got it. And then it made it to the damn movie.
Uh-huh. All I remember is that there was that wrestler Zeus, and he had the one, like, lazy eye.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, man, that guy's got to be evil.
He's got to be crazy. Look at his eye.
Yeah, look at his eye. Crazy.
Crazy eye.
But, I loved wrestling, and the biggest argument when I was a child, you know what it was, right? Is it real? There's no way. That is so real. They don't plan that stuff, dude. You think they could do that kind of stuff? You think they could jump off those ropes and, like, hammer them and give them a pile driver? That's not fake. That's, like, for real. And we would, like, argue with each other, and then we'd get into, like, fist fights and be like, no, shut up. You're wrong. And it's like, no, it's all fake. You hated that kid who said it was fake because he was just ruining your childhood. Yeah.
It was like the whole Santa Claus thing.
Exactly.
I think that it went far, to give it credit, it made it really far that people thought it was real.
Mm-hmm.
Because didn't it, like, finally they were just like, okay, it's sports entertainment in, like, the 90s?
Yeah.
After 30 or 40 years? Jesus Christ.
But it is the soap opera for grown men. It's like, you know what I mean? And young boys who don't know any better. And old men who should.
And I'll tell you what, you're right, dude. Me and my friends, we used to beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
We'd set up a ring in the living room, and we'd go off the couch, bash each other's heads off the turnbuckle, and go off the ropes, jumping off the couch on people. It was dangerous.
It was dangerous. You didn't care because you were representing your hero in the ring. You know what I mean? You're like, no way, man. If my guy went versus your guy'd like go down. And then you get him into the pile driver and you break his neck, and then he's a quadriplegic for the rest of your life, and you have to come visit him and be like, I guess wrestling, I guess wrestling was fake.
By the way, I agree with you, Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other guy was Bret the Hitman Hart.
Bret the Hitman? Good.
Come on.
I liked Jake the Snake Roberts. I liked Bret the Hitman Hart with that spitting that gum, and then he'd slap it out the air. Was that him?
No.
Who was the guy who spit the gum? You know who I'm talking about, right?
Mm.
He'd climb up on the ring, he'd spit the gum up in the air, it would come in an arc, and then he would slap it.
I don't know.
I think it was the Hitman.
No, it wasn't the Hitman Hart.
Okay.
That was my guy, dude.
All right.
It wasn't him. I think you're thinking of Leapin' Lenny Poffo.
Yeah, Leapin' Lenny Poffo was good. No, but...
At being bad.
Oh, man. I wish I could remember his name? I don't know what it was, but you know, there was Roddy Piper. There was the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, he was one of my favorites for a while. He was one of my favorites for a while. The Mega Powers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he used to keep her in a cage.
No. For real?
Yeah.
That's weird.
He was kind of crazy. They all were in a way.
They were all nuts. And then the best was when Andre the Giant came into like wrestling, because he was actually like a mountain of a man, and he could have killed any of them with like a single hand. So they all had to like kiss his ass.
I hope he was a good guy, because he seemed like a good guy.
He seemed like a good
gentle
guy.
Giant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really hope that he wasn't part of the madness like all the rest of them.
Well, you know, remember the announcer? What's his name? Not the Brain, not Jimmy. Mean Gene Green, or whatever his name was.
Didn't he catch a good slap every now and then?
Yeah, he catches a slapper or whatever. But I
run
remember
off with the mouth and catch a fresh one.
I remember in the documentary they're showing what's his name? Andre the Giant takes off one of his rings, and Mean Gene puts 3 of his fingers into that one ring, and you know,
God,
the guy was massive. He was, you know, he could drink like a case of beer, a case of wine, and like 3 bottles of whiskey, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, let's go out and get drunk."
I just had breakfast.
I had my breakfast, so let's go.
Crazy times, man. It was fun watching. You remember the cartoon?
Which one?
It was a Saturday morning cartoon. It was all the damn wrestlers running around.
I remember it, but yeah, it's vaguely.
Wasn't there what was the lady's name? Mula?
I don't know.
Can't remember.
It sounds like a Samantha. Samantha sounds
like
a great wrestling name.
She was a tough looking woman.
Oh.
And not nice at all.
Scary. I don't know. But I did love when the ladies wrestled, because they made them wear those ridiculous like tight outfits that like, you know, and you could just see that you know, it was as much about letting the audience see breasts and butt, you know, TNA, as it was about actual wrestling. So it was a total spectacle. And, you know, that when we were young, we're like, yeah, that's staged. That's not real.
But I'm still going to watch it.
I'm still watching it, you know.
And, I like it better than normal wrestling.
But I watch it alone. I have to watch that one alone. All right.
Oh, boy.
Come to the end of another wonderful
action-packed
podcast extravaganza.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we didn't mention the unmentionable. We didn't talk about it. We mentioned it, but we didn't talk about it.
Should not be.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that anymore because I'm sick of it. The world's sick of it. There's so many better topics to talk about.
They jam it down your fucking throat.
You know what I love? Watching the millionaires and the billionaires in their mansions, you know, and they're like, oh, it's so rough over here. You know, I can barely fly around in my private jet and go to the Bahamas. You know, I'm struggling. It's really tough for me with my maid and oh my God, it is so disgusting seeing these people.
What would you say about a certain blood witch named Nancy Pelosi? What did she have?
Oh my God. Trump turned this into an ad. And as much as I hate Trump, I hate Nancy Pelosi probably more somehow. And she opened up her like $30,000 fridge, and she like had like just so much ice cream, like super expensive like ice cream. She had like 3 rows, 3 deep of, you know, like fancy, like, you know, $10 quart ice cream, and she had like Dove bars, and she's like, ooh, these are my favorite. Everybody's got to have these in their freezer. Some people don't have food, Nancy. Some people are out of a job. They don't have food. They don't have a paycheck. A lot of, especially illegal immigrants who are in this country who work very, very hard, are stuck right now without a job because they work in the food industry, an industry which spits on people, basically. You make very low wages, and yet you're preparing people's food. What people don't realize when they go to those fancy restaurants is like the people in the back who are actually preparing their food are usually not able to go home because they're sick or whatever. So the food you're taking and putting in your mouth has probably been sneezed on, spit on by a lot of people, all because they don't have health care, they don't have good wages, they're oftentimes illegal immigrants who are taken advantage of. Yay, America. So,
hey, Nancy, you got your fancy little ice cream. I'm happy for you. Why is that I'm a blue-collar person and I go through my local checkout at the grocery store and it asks me if I'd like to donate to help people who are dealing with this situation. How much are you giving, Nancy? Your ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
You know, they invented like $1 trillion out of the air, right? They just invented it.
Well, they do that quite often.
And right now, you know what I love? They set up that fund for small businesses. And like these businesses that are like multi-$10 million, $30 million businesses, they took these small loans, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For mom and pop operations. And now the money was gone. And they're like, the government's like, can you please give it back to us? Because the government are a bunch of pussies. And the people who actually run this country are the corporations. And in 3 seconds, I'm going to get shot in the head.
Well, and that's what actually, really angers me too, is the mom and pop restaurants and stores, that are just like local, but they're successful because they work hard and they put all their life's work into this thing, and they're not going to have a chance. The more they drag this thing out.
The more they drag it out, the worse it's going to be. And here's the thing. I don't want them to open up and, more people to get sick. But they can do this in a conscientious way where, let's say if you're like an older person, you're required to wear a mask. You shouldn't go here. You shouldn't go there. You should have more restrictions. If you're a younger person and there's more likely a chance you survive when you get the virus, then you should have less restrictions. It should be common sense. It should be done in a common sense way. And, life isn't fair. That might not be fair for everyone, but life isn't fair. Life stinks. Life sucks. So that's what I want to leave you guys with. But
why why in March would you close the beaches on like the Jersey Shore?
I don't know.
Who the fuck is going there? Nobody.
The Jersey Shore people from that show?
They won't even go there.
Snooki and Snoopy and Cookie and Whoopi.
Don't talk shit about Snooki, dude.
Snooki. I don't know.
She's my favorite.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What does she do?
Whatever the fuck she wants.
Oh, hell no.
And that's why she's the best.
All right. Okay, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, guys, please, thank you. Keep watching. Keep spreading the word.
Please tell people how good we are, how talented we are.
We want the subs.
Yeah.
We want the subscribers.
Be like, these two guys, they're so talented. They come up with this witty banter.
Oh, my God. During these.
Yeah. Look at how close they're sitting. This is not 6 feet. This is not 6 feet.
Rock and roll. They're rebels.
Yeah.
Rebels without a clue. So, spread the word. Thank you for everyone.
But don't spread the virus.
No.
You see how You see? Blew it.
All right, guys. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.